Hello, I'm old Mr. Kent, and I'm 82 years old on my morning e-trike ride, and this is really a morning e-trike ride. Previous rides I've been later in the day, but this is actually like 10 o'clock in the morning, maybe 9 o'clock. I don't know. I didn't look at the clock that close. It's been kind of a crazy week. This is Wednesday, the 12th, I think it's the 12th day of February, and I haven't made a video since, well, it's been a week at least. Let's see, a week ago, well, let's see, yeah, a week ago tomorrow, my son and his family left. We're about 40 miles south of Phoenix, Arizona, and they left here to go down to Tombstone, Arizona, which is a couple hours drive, and it's a historic town, and they loved it. They had a good time down there, and they were down there Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and they came back Sunday, and so they had a wonderful time. It's a historic town. They have what's I guess it's the original Boot Hill graveyard. Plus, it's where they have the OK Corral shootout, and what they made movies of and all that kind of stuff. Plus a lot of other things. See, my son said there's the old saloons. There's saloons everywhere from the old days, and they're still open, and so they preserve that town, and so it's they had a fun time. But Grandma and my son has his automotive repair and rebuild business, and so we stayed there on his little miniature farm and fed the goats and the chickens. Plus, he had a new customer show up, and so we met him and took the keys to his vehicle, and he left it there, and so somebody had to do all that kind of stuff. So that's what we did. And so while they were gone, I wasn't about to go for an e-trike ride and leave Grandma there by herself. So it's been a while since. And then when they got back, Grandma and we were tired. Not that it was so hard work, but it was just kind of relief. So I didn't go for any e-trike rides until today. So, and by the way, our weather wasn't all that great. And today we're having a little bit of a thin overcast. And if you're following my channel, you know I don't like to make videos unless we have lots of good sunlight. But I guess tomorrow it's supposed to be a lot worse weather than we have today. And then the next day we're supposed to even have rain, which we're glad to get down here because we haven't. The last time we had rain was on the 30th day of September, and this is February. So we're looking forward to a little bit of rain. Hopefully it'll show up. So anyway, so that's the story of why I haven't put up any videos recently. Plus, I've been having a hard time figuring out what I'm going to talk about because pretty much running out of stories. But actually, I came up with some ideas, and so I'll be okay there. One thing I was thinking about, and I don't know if you've given any thought to it, but this is 2025, and we base our year system on the birth of Jesus, if you didn't know that. I think everybody knows that. Which means that 2,000 years ago today, Jesus was a 25-year-old carpenter in Israel. Which leads me to question the way the artists paint him. I don't think he was a skinny guy. I think it was a little bit more buff because you couldn't go to Home Depot and buy 2x4s back in those days. Most of the wood was probably heavier beams, and he was probably pretty buff. Plus, working out in the sun in Israel, he probably didn't have long, stringy hair. That's just my opinion. So anyway, that's something to think about. And those are my friends there. They like to say hello when I go by. So anyway, that's something to think about. All right, so let's see. What I'm going to do is, because I am running out of really interesting stories, I'm going to go back to some of the stories I've already talked a little bit about, but I'm going to give you more detail, like what color the grass was. Now, things that I didn't give you details about, and that I might have already told a little bit about. So that's the plan. Otherwise, I'll just plain run out of stories. And I've had a lot of people say, don't stop telling your stories. I don't know why, but I guess if you like to hear my stories, that's what I'll try to do. So we'll go way back to when I was a little tiny child, 3 years old, something like that. My dad worked for United Airlines. He started working for them as, back then they had the 240 twin engine passenger plane, which was a pretty small passenger plane, but that's what they had back then. See, I was born in 1942, and so this would be 1945, something like that. And he was working for them. Excuse me. And he started by cleaning underneath the wings, you know, where the exhaust comes out and makes it all black. Well, his job was to scrub the black exhaust stuff off the bottom of the wing so it didn't look so ugly. That's what his job was. Later in his life, they discovered that, I forget the disease he got from that, but it got into his system and actually poisoned his system over the years. But because they didn't know what they know now, so he was just dipping his hands, no rubber gloves, nothing like that, with a rag and scrubbing, and I forget what they call it. Anyway, see, my problem is they found out, we got to counting, and I've had 4 TIAs because I had one a few weeks back, and it causes you to forget things that you used to remember. So that doesn't help with my storytelling at all. I think it was 4. I'm teasing. Anyway, so anyway, that's what he started out doing. But they offered him, I guess, I wasn't there, the opportunity to go to, this was in Cheyenne, Wyoming. That's where I was born. And they offered him the opportunity to go back to Chicago to their training school and to take their course and get the second-class commercial license to work on their aircraft radio gear. And that's what he did, and he passed. And so for the rest of his life, he worked for United Airlines. He worked for them for over 40 years. And basically, he worked in their radio shop, working on aircraft equipment, aircraft communications equipment. And so he got that job. And my memory is based upon just a few things that I remember. And there's some more of my good friends. A few things that I remember. So I'm just going to give you some of the things I remember, okay? They bought a house. And if you've been watching my video where I ride through the new construction area, and they've got streets and curbs and sidewalks, but it's all dirt out there where they're building these new houses. Well, I remember a little bit about where they lived, and I've I still remember, because I've learned things since then. 1946 Cheyenne Place was the house that they bought, and it was a new construction. And I've got a picture of it somewhere. If I can find it, I'll put it up, or I can get it again on YouTube, on Google Earth, and I'll put it up. That's what it looks like today. Back then, it was the dirt yard, and I think the street was dirt, but there was a sidewalk, and then there was a sidewalk that ran from the street up to the front steps of the porch, and then the window to the right of the door was the living room. I remember that. And I'm pretty sure the window to the left of the door was the kitchen. And I remember my mom holding me in her arms and marching around the kitchen table while Kate Smith was singing, Jesus wants me for a sunshine, to shine for him each day. I remember that. That's a memory that I have. And so, but I also remember that my dad, he always wanted and eventually got a little workshop somewhere in the house where he could work on little electronic projects and things like that. And so in that first house, it didn't have a basement. I think it had three bedrooms, and I had an older sister, so she had a room, and I had a room, and my folks had a room. And I don't remember the rooms or anything like that. So he was determined to dig out a basement underneath this house, which had a crawl space. And I remember this one instance when my mom, my mom lowered me down through a hole in the kitchen floor, and my dad reached up and took me down. And I was down in what was becoming the basement. And as he held me there, behind me was the crawl space, and in front of me was the basement that he was digging out. And then as you looked across from behind me to the wall on the other side, he had dug out enough that, and to me it seemed really big, but I'm sure it wasn't that large. But to me, and he had this wooden rail that he had made that went from the left side down. It was down at the ground to the right side. And I got a car coming here. I don't know if he's waiting for me or what. Must be. I have to hurry up here a little bit. Anyway, so it went up at an angle from the left to the right, and it was a wooden rail, and he had a cart that he had made, a wooden cart, and he would lower it down to the lower end, and he would shovel dirt into it, and he had a rope connected to it, and as it went up to the right-hand side, then there was a hole in the foundation. However he did, I just remember seeing light coming in that hole. And what he did was he would pull it up through that with a rope from outside, pull it across the street, because there was no houses on the other side of the street back then, and he'd pull it across the street and dump the dirt in the lot across the street and then lower it down and fill it up with dirt and dump the dirt across the street. Now, I don't know how long that would have taken him, and I don't know if he ever got it done or not, because that goes beyond my knowledge. But I know this, that that would have been, let's see, about 1940, maybe 1948 or something. I don't know. But anyway, United Airlines transferred him to Boeing Field in Seattle. They set up a shop there, and they transferred him there. And so Whether he got his basement dug or not, I'll never know. But so we moved from 1949 or 1946 Cheyenne place to a place out in the woods, 6 miles east of Renton, Washington. And so that's as much as I remember of that place there in Cheyenne. So those are some details, because I've told you a little bit about that. And of course, I need to finish the story by telling you that my dad did lift me back up to the hole in the kitchen floor. I don't know any more about the details, except there wasn't any grass growing, so I can't tell you the color of the grass. So that's a story of that I have details about. So there's a story for you, and I hope that is a blessing to you. Okay, so I'll just put it. I'll just say there's one more story. Next story will be another place that I lived, which would be out in the country east of Renton, Washington, and some of the things that happened there. All right. Thank you for watching my video, and God bless.